Hey, guess what? I survived my first COVID vaccine shot. My name is Jeffrey Lin. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I share my personal journey with multiple chronic illnesses. So as someone with multiple chronic illnesses, especially asthma and allergies, I was more susceptible to getting the coronavirus. I'm also more likely to react to the vaccine and have allergic reaction to that. And I'm also immunocompromised because of the immunosuppressants that I take for my eczema and allergies. So I'll share a little bit about how I decided to get the vaccine and maybe some of the information to help you guys out. If you guys remember, I self-quarantined a couple weeks before the lockdowns began. I'm used to avoiding everything because of my immunocompromised health and just used to working from home. So I've been following this from the very beginning, and my bioengineering background helps with understanding how these vaccines work. The mRNA vaccines that most of the US is going to get is actually very safe and very promising, not just for dealing with COVID, but even for other immune diseases like eczema and other things that I have. And I know a lot of the viewers on this channel deal with the same thing. So I'll explain a little bit about how mRNA vaccines work and how these newer vaccines work in general. And they actually have less components and they're less complicated than traditional flu vaccines. So because there's less parts, there's less things you can potentially react to and less things that can cause problems once they get into your cells in your body. So that's the basic reason why I got the vaccine and felt it was very safe to do so. The coronavirus is called a coronavirus because corona literally means crown. So the COVID virus has these spikes that makes it look like a crown on the surface. These spikes, what's called a spike protein, is what the body uses to recognize the coronavirus. So you don't need the whole virus to come in the body for the body to recognize it and build a defense system against the virus. All you need is the spike protein, because just the identifying part is the part that you can see, sort of like a turtle shell. You don't need to see the turtle inside. You can just see the turtle shell and it's very unique. You know it's a turtle shell. And so you know there's probably a turtle inside it. So what these bioengineers figured out is you can send this mRNA code, which is similar to the DNA code in our body. But the mRNA code is what cells use to create different parts. What the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, based on this mRNA technology, what they do is they just send the mRNA code into the body, gets into our cells, and the cells read the mRNA code and the cells produce the coronavirus spike protein. So there's no virus involved. There's not even parts of a virus involved. There's no virus genetic code in there. It's just mRNA code to create the spike protein. So once your body starts creating the spike protein, the immune defense system recognizes that, oh, the spike protein isn't normal to your body. It shouldn't be there. So your body starts training its security guards called these antibodies. And these antibodies start recognizing what the spike protein looks like, and it starts building up a defense for if and when the actual COVID virus gets into your body. You don't have to start training and figuring out how to defend yourself against the COVID virus. You've already seen the spike protein, so you know how to recognize the coronavirus, and your body already has a defense system against it. So this is why it's a lot safer to get the mRNA vaccine instead of even traditional flu vaccines or some of the other COVID vaccines, because all you're doing is sending in a very short bit of code, and all the code can do is tell your cells to make the spike protein, which by itself is not the virus. The spike protein is sort of just like a shell. It's really harmless, but it does trigger your body to start this immune reaction and figure out how to protect your body against anything that has the spike protein, which is the coronavirus. The other kind of vaccines, the ones from Oxford, AstraZeneca, and also the Johnson & Johnson one that some Americans started getting, those also achieve the same thing by telling your body to create the spike protein. However, that one, it's a little bit more complicated. It uses a harmless virus called adenovirus, which is just a virus shell. It takes out all the bad virus code in there, and it puts in a DNA that tells your body to create the spike protein. But this one, it's a little bit more complicated because you got to send it in with this adenovirus inactivated virus shell. The shell delivers the DNA. The DNA has to be converted into mRNA. Then the mRNA can be used to create the spike protein. But that's a couple more steps, makes it more complicated than just sending in the mRNA directly, and then the mRNA creates a spike protein. So both of these are very effective and very safe, but the straight mRNA version that Moderna and Pfizer does, it's just a lot simpler, and therefore there's ways for there to be complications. So addressing the allergy reaction issue, you don't actually react to the mRNA code that's being sent in with the vaccine. You're most likely reacting to the liquid that holds the mRNA code so that you can inject it into your body. And therefore, it's just like anything you react to if you touch it. You're reacting to a liquid that's getting injected into your body. So if you're going to have an allergic reaction, as soon as you come in contact with that liquid, you should have that allergic reaction. So that's why they tell you to stay usually 15 minutes for normal people. I had to stay 30 minutes, just to see how my body would react if I would have an allergic reaction once I come in contact with the vaccine liquid. Since I'm taking the immunosuppressant cyclosporin, I was a little bit worried about how effective the vaccine would be, just because immunosuppressant will likely suppress the immune response that the vaccine is supposed to create. Remember, the vaccine is supposed to create an immune response so that your body has the army and the security guards to recognize and defend your body against the real coronavirus if it gets into your body. So there's two things to realize about how effective the vaccines are. There's two stats, and usually they only talk about the Moderna and Pfizer ones are about 95% effective. But when they say that 95% effective, it's only talking about generating the antibodies, sort of like the monitoring system and prepping for a response. But the other data or the other statistic that doctors look at is how good are these vaccines at preventing severe symptoms from COVID, like needing to be on incubator and or causing death. Well, basically, all of these vaccines are very good at protecting you from the severe symptoms or dying from COVID. They're basically 100%. So the only difference between the less effective, like the AstraZeneca and Johnson vaccines versus the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines are that the Pfizer vaccines are Pfizer and Moderna, which is what I got. They're better at protecting you from having the COVID mild symptoms, just flu-like symptoms and being a little bit fatigued. But all of these are really good, basically 100% at protecting you from really severe COVID reaction symptoms or dying from COVID. So that just made me feel a lot better. So even though cyclosporin, the immunosuppressant, is in this article that my buddy, my good friend who's a gastrointestinal surgeon, he sent me this from a medical magazine saying there may be some concern that steroids, which is also a type of immunosuppressant, and cyclosporin would reduce the effectiveness of vaccines. But there is no concern that any of the drugs would cause any increase from non-live vaccines. So again, all of the vaccines we're using are non-live. They're just pieces of code. So first of all, cyclosporin and steroids won't have any interactions with these vaccines. It's not going to have any weird side effects from it. And also he added that there is evidence that patients on biologics who receive non-live vaccines, they do still develop the antibody response and they are immunized. Even with biologics like Dupixent that I take or Xolair, these won't interfere with how the vaccines work. You would still have the antibodies to protect you from COVID, and you would still be immunized. That was what I went with, and more and more data comes out every day that just shows how safe and how effective these vaccines are. Israel is also showing data that these vaccines are almost 100% at protecting you from passing on the virus. So there was a lot of concern in the beginning that even if you get the vaccine, you can still pass it on to other people. Well, Israel is showing that there's a very, very low chance of you doing that. So you don't have to be as concerned about getting COVID and passing on to other people unknowingly. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully that was informative in helping you decide if you want to get the COVID vaccines and which ones you should get. I'm still waiting on getting my second shot, so I'll have an update about that. I'm going to get my second shot on April 30th, so wish me luck. It's going to be 4 weeks between shots because for Moderna, they recommend 4 weeks between the shots. Pfizer, they recommend 3 weeks. But realistically, you can drag it out to even 12 weeks between shots and you'll be fine. I think the UK is doing something like that so that they can get the first shot to more people. Because even just after the first shot, you're about 70% protected from having symptoms. If you have any questions or stories to share about your vaccine experience, especially with any kind of illness or immunocompromised condition, I'd love to hear it. Other people on this channel would love to know your experience, so leave a comment below. Remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and follow me on Instagram at JeffreyLynLA. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video.